Our next presentation covers the 5 common characteristics needed to deliver best-in-class retail execution. Our speaker is Andres Jejen, Retail Execution Product Management Director for AFS Technologies. Without further ado, here is Andres.
Thank you. So let's imagine this. A summer buy one, get one free campaign is running in over 10,000 stores. Now imagine the questions that will pop in your head. Is this promotion being executed consistently and correctly? Are my products being restocked in a timely manner? Is this promotion successful in all locations? What factors are influencing all the results? What is the ROI? Many brands have little or no visibility into on-site conditions. This makes it very difficult to ensure that their products are available and visible to shoppers, and that their promotions are being executed as planned. As they work in the field conducting visual merchandising and sales compliance audits, brand representatives face hurdles that hinder their productivity. They can't be everywhere at once, it's logic. Even if a brand had the luxury of having representatives present in all locations at all times, it is challenging to measure, track, and scale best practices, all while managing performance across locations. By the time managers get audit results, the data is often stale, diminishing its value. The difficulty of this process is compounded when CGOs take a legacy approach to audits and knowledge sharing, and unfortunately, nowadays many still do. A recent poll that we conducted found that 64% of retail execution professionals still complete physical paperwork during visits, rather than using more accurate and efficient digital methods. So this opportunity for me to take a look into the day-to-day challenges that retail execution professionals face. Let's talk a little bit about the pre-visit process, which is depicted here. Even before setting a food in a customer location, it's hard for field staff to optimize the plans and maximize the time with the customer. From managing customer contacts to organizing routes, our reps spend a lot of time planning for a visit. It's not easy. They have a limited time and many location-specific factors to consider and a long list of pre-visit actions to complete. Before meeting with their customer, brand reps typically develop agendas which address previous discussions, location-specific issues, and past promotions. They also craft a list of scheduled visits, plan the route, map directions to each location, and review historical sales data. With a seemingly endless to-do list, reps are often stuck behind their desk, with limited availability left over for an actual on-site visit. Then, during the visit, while with the customer, the rep works with the manager to review planogram compliance. And the assessment proved to be time-consuming as it requires a lot of manual, careful input to verify that the products are matching the planogram in the shelf. During that visit, the reps also may need to process orders, manage inventory, and so on. If the customer is running low on stock, they typically document the need to complete a refill order after that visit, which definitely becomes a manual task as well. Reps also have to review promotion results, discuss location performance, and address issues. Often these conversations are backward-looking as real-time data is not available for them. Today, the majority of the reps still complete physical paperwork on location. Now, talking about the post-visit, the reps need to consolidate the information that they have collected. This includes sales performance metrics, planogram compliance, customer information, and more. Ideally, a rep enters the data once, and that data is automatically fed into the appropriate system. But in reality, paper-based processes and data re-entry requirements slow things down, lower productivity, and create data integrity issues. On top of that, aggregating and analyzing data is the next step, and there is a long lag between the visit and the availability of data for reporting. This means that the managers receive a historical view that will not allow them to be completely reactive with that data. Field reporting is also combined with other insights such as sales results and backstock inventory and shared with headquarters. Corporate teams and sales executives use those insights to drive company-wide resourcing, best practices, campaigns, and investment decisions. So that's why it becomes incredibly important and relevant to have that information as fast as we can. And that's why we engage on the best practices of the retail execution attributes that I'm going to discuss in continuation. So I'm sharing with you right now on the screen some of the sample outcomes of the best practices on retail execution that we have experienced with a bunch of our customers. And just by introducing small innovations, we can see numeric value on the implementation of retail execution solutions. So you can see increases in coverage and call rates, improvement related in product performance, increases on product distribution and higher penetration of new products, improvements in promotional compliance, and so on. All CPG companies, regardless of their size, type, or market coverage or product portfolio, can benefit from improving and innovating in retail execution. Digital disruption and the technology underpinning it is creating unprecedented opportunities for growth and innovation. And as a result of that, CEOs that embrace new technology to drive more effective retail execution have a distinctive advantage. I'm going to discuss with you how these companies that have gotten these results are benefiting from these 5 attributes that are depicted in the next slide. So we have the list of attributes here, right? The first one, that they do hyper-efficient planning, right? Which means, and it's beyond the process of performing the natural planning of determining what points of sale to do. It's more in the fashion of where to go and what to do on those sales points. The second point is related to being cord cutters, and that goes beyond the technology. It's more in the sense of providing the information whenever it is required. The third one is related to turn compliance into a science. It's not a matter of following some specific steps one by one. It's more like determining what is best to do and how to accomplish it. The fourth one is related to improve using the data that is available on their hands. And finally, that they dare to share that information. Let's talk about the first attribute. The first, they are hyper-efficient planners. As part of this planning process required for highly efficient retail execution, it is imperative to create a connected feedback loop between planning and execution teams and the tools to enhance customers' experience with a brand and maximize those sales. With a limited amount of time available for visits on each location, it is essential for retail execution professionals to get the most out of each visit as efficiently as possible. Planning is crucial, but by no means has to consume all the time or effort of retail execution professionals. With automated planning tools, account managers and account reps can wake up in the morning already knowing what their optimal route is, which locations to visit, which audits to conduct, and what topics to cover with their contacts. Organizations that move toward full automation of planning activities give employees hours of time back for more strategic initiatives that require more nuanced human decision-making. Ultimately, this frees the retail execution professional from the confines of their desk, allowing them to spend more time on location on value-added activities for the brand. I'm sharing with you one of the case studies from one of our customers. It's a global manufacturer of confectionery and other products. This is a player that was already mature on the software in the retail execution software space, being one of the earliest adopters of the new systems coming to the market. However, in spite of the fact that they were early adopters, the planning processes were pretty manual. They didn't have direct feedback between the results of the store visits and the team's planning, right? Making the whole planning exercise a very mechanic one based on recurrent patterns. So basically they say if a store has to be visited on Mondays, then it has to happen every single Monday no matter what, regardless of what are the actual needs of the store or if there are orders coming or deliveries and whatnot, right? With the introduction of the of next generation retail execution, they were able to achieve a desired level of efficiency. They implemented the perfect store strategy, and they were able to get a real sense of the conditions of the store based on execution pillars. So it was presence, price, visibility of the products, etc. That immediate feedback, that immediate feedback was embedded into analytics, and those analytics aggregating and summarizing the results helped the plant teams, the sales managers, and even the end user to really determine which stores will require the most attention, right? So that will help them to define which stores will need to be visited first and what other stores can be delayed in the priority. And then inside of that, also help them to determine what actions will need to be executed on each visit, because not all the store visits should look like the same. Imagine that you define a specific store visit script that has to be repeated over and over and over in all of your visits. That's really not efficient. Some stores will require a different level of attention depending on their relevance or their current product conditions or status, or etc. Now, this program has proven to be very successful and is being adopted as a regional standard, provided consistency and allocated shared resources that help reducing the cost in terms of planning and driving a more efficient execution. An additional component of this strategy is the implementation of a model of management by exception, and this is very relevant because when you implement management by exception, you are able to determine some specific thresholds and trigger alerts that have to be addressed directly by the relevant people, right? But not in the sense of someone sitting behind the desk and analyzing those patterns. It's a system taking care of finding those points in which the thresholds are broken and then driving the alerts directly to the specific people that need to take action on that. So our systems are now taking care of sending an SMS to a sales manager if a group of users have not completed an audit in most of the relevant stores. Or it will automatically send an email to a supply chain manager if we have an out of stock in a specific product. Now, the second attribute is that the hyper-efficient people in retail execution are called cutters. And getting out from behind the desk and spending more time on location is becoming a consistently top priority for field representatives. For this reason, mobile access to mission-critical tools, applications, and information is very essential is becoming very essential and is part of the modern retail execution picture. In order to capitalize on the efficiencies and insights mobile business applications have to deliver, the literal and metaphorical course that tether reps to their desks must be severed. Forward-thinking business are equipping field staff with mobile devices, everything from high-performance tablets to smartphones and even lightweight and unobtrusive wearable technology. Wearable technology alone is actually projected to drive potential operational savings of $1 billion per year by 2017 in the retail industry. Mobile optimized applications and productivity tools are the other piece of the puzzle. Many firms are disseminating knowledge and marketing information via mobile repositories, which equip employees with the latest product and sales data instantly. And as a result, CEOs are closer to having total integration between their physical and digital storefronts. These firms are also using modern productivity tools to speed and automate data collection from daily activities, as well as analytic tools to draw insights from that data faster and more easily. These advances are enabling reps to do more and more with their job while outside of the office. In this second case study, this manufacturer was handling an enormous number of complexities given their scale and the number of markets that were embedded into a harmonization process that they wanted to follow. Not to mention that some of their markets were serviced via distributors, so you can imagine the picture, several companies servicing and distributing products for a single market with different types of levels of service and different channels as well. Given this, a lot of the processes that the end user had to perform were in office in order to achieve the parameters that the harmonization was representing. So our reps had to be sitting in the office, preparing paperwork and preparing documentation, preparing materials to be shared in the stores, right? So that was very time consuming. Imagine, for instance, another example. At the end of the day, the users will actually physically required to mail proof of delivery evidences gathered at the stores, and then after those documents were mailed to the main office, they were, let's say, sorted out to be sent to different parties that were interested in those documents. So it was a very manual process. And retail execution software not only helped them to overcome those challenges that I was describing, it became also a great way to discover inefficiencies on the planning process, in the execution, in the reporting that were reducing the time spent by the users in actual store visits. And by attacking those inefficiencies and cutting that cost, this company was able to have an additional visit per day. Imagine the impact that an additional visit per day can have in your sales. Now, in regards of the third pillar, turning compliance into science, Winning at the shelf actually requires CEOs to have a lot of dedication to brand guidelines and marketing compliance. Even the best laid marketing plans are only effective if the teams have easy access to those plans and they implement them well. Given that, successful firms are making key information more accessible and available to their field teams. This enables field personnel to perform brand consistency activities like setting up and auditing planograms and promotional materials much more quickly, easily, and effectively. Modern CGOs are also adopting new technologies to help streamline audits, including taking advantage of advances in machine learning, artificial intelligence, and image recognition. These advancements in technology are driving a whole new class of solutions. For example, a field rep can now snap photos of planograms and displays while in the field, and a solution then automatically processes the photos and ascertains whether a given promotional display meets compliance standards. Whereas a human operator will have to painstakingly access each detail to find error in product placement, these automated solutions find errors and inconsistencies in seconds. Now, in this case, related to a global beer and soft drink manufacturer, they have very special requirements related to the type of business, and you can imagine that it relates a lot to compliance about the quality of the product, and sometimes related to delivery, to empties management, and things like that. But one of the main challenges that they had was related to promotional campaigns. And sometimes those promotional campaigns were not updated at the same speed as the conditions were changing in the market, and that derived into sales opportunities losses. This manufacturer was able to streamline their processes from bottom to top. The end users took benefit from an easy-to-use retail execution solution that helped them to execute 3 to 4 times faster in the store. This enabled them to capture more data points in regards of presence, visibility, and opportunities for the products. With those additional data points, system administrators were able to design additional processes that helped them to analyze that bulk information and identify deviations, right? And those deviations later became a tool for them to influence the planning process. And then after the planning process was made more efficient, they were able to give higher priority to those stores that required additional attention and to drive campaigns and actions to be executed in those stores with a clear identifications for the end users of the compliance criteria to be followed. So the end user was removed from the task of thinking what makes a store compliant or not. They were receiving through the retail execution solution a clear guideline on what is a compliant store and what are the parameters to measure the compliance in the store. The smart business structures the processes around data-driven insights. Digitally captured data saves retail execution professionals time, avoid the mistakes inherent to manual paper-based data collection, and can be disseminated in real time. Once this data is processed, the result insights have the potential to become game changers. The ability to perform analytics using a variety of data sources, from transactions, social listening, inventory, promotions, CRM, Internet of Things devices, and more, makes it possible to get a more nuanced, holistic view on what's really happening in the store. Even weather data and social media sentiment can provide CGOs with valuable insights that they previously lacked. For example, if a brand is seeking to raise the performance of struggling locations, they can inform their strategy with data rather than conjecture. By capturing best practices from high-performing locations with skyrocketing sales metrics, a brand rep may develop a checklist that they can use later to compare low-performing locations and inform what needs to be adjusted immediately. Or suppose that a region is expecting a large snowstorm. With predictive analytics that draw information from shelf sensors and weather data, a brand can preemptively ensure that the stores will be well stocked with non-perishable foods. Keeping data current is essential to sales success. Real-time POS data can improve sales by about a good 10%, and access to accurate inventory information in real time is rated as the top capability in improving an organization's business agility. From improving inventory efficiency by reducing their out-of-stock rate, to testing innovative processes and process improvements, organizations are empowered by data to execute better and more accurately. In this example, this leading Latin American food manufacturer, they had a very challenging environment with rapid changes in the local economy. And as such, once data became available to them, they were required to react instantly and introduce targeted campaigns to make the most of the opportunity at their hands. Their largest challenges were actually related to provide the necessary data and tools to the end users while executing their visits, such as extensive price lists and managing 500 different SKUs segmented by region, by channel, by store type, by banner, by season, additional promotional information and automated discounts while placing in-store orders, planogram data, store layout data, etc. So retail execution helped them to improve by using all of this information available. First, they created a method through which they put in the field constant updates at least 3 times a day on the POS data adequately segmented per store that facilitated the discussions with the store managers based on facts. That, of course, required a heavy integration between the DSR provider and the retail execution solution that, luckily for us, was achieved in a very transparent way. Second, they enabled the integration of external price management engines with the retail execution, and that's a very significant matter because the price, typically you have 2 possibilities in retail execution, whether you calculate the prices in the retail execution itself and display them on the application, or you price your orders in the back end, and then you will not know the real price of the order. So in this manufacturer, we achieve a combination of both. Actually, we connect to a third party and get the prices in real time while the order is created. So we are able to manage very complex scenarios of pricing, and then that gives this manufacturer a huge competitive advantage while creating the orders. And then, as a third point, they automated the process of delivering visit support materials through a virtual sales order that was embedded inside the application. And this sales order had the advantage of segmentation and direction of those materials to the stores that were meant to be impacted, right? Finally, they empower the users to understand this data, and the data itself doesn't tell you anything if you don't have anyone at the end of the spectrum to understand it, right? And a good example of this understanding was the usage of digital image recognition plus some analytics models that are available in the retail execution solution. So it's not about only capturing the information and having the data in your hands, it's also to be able to understand the insights that the data was providing, right? And soon enough, these manufacturers saw a very positive impact on their KPIs, and they were able to introduce an additional layer. They were able to, based on the data that they collected and the data that they put on the end users' hands, they were able to segment their stores based on social, economical, performance, and size variables gathered by the end users. And then they were able to create campaigns that were much more focused on specific attributes on the stores. The final attribute is that they dare to share. And high-performing teams don't keep their best practices a secret. They share these insights broadly. At leading firms, knowledge sharing is an integral aspect of the retail execution process. From planning to visits to post-visit activities, the entire process is data-driven, and information can be shared with colleagues, management, and partners to drive excellence. This might be information on what is selling well in a particular region, or subtle issues with a campaign, or feedback from several managers. Sharing knowledge in this manner involves rapid communication that makes teams more effective. 75% of CEOs anticipate that enhanced collaboration with retailers enabled through digital technology will drive product availability and make the best use of shelf space and trade promotion funds. Indeed, collaboration efforts can raise store shelf stock rates by 5% and reduce G&A costs by about between 3 and 10%. In addition to that, when individuals face the challenge of gaining buy-in from other members of their organizations, having hard data to share changes this dynamic. It empowers individuals to back up their findings from experience with objective information. Effective dissemination of this information requires user-friendly dashboards, collaboration, and knowledge-sharing tools. An informed team is a productive one. Using knowledge-sharing infrastructure makes it easier to cascade best practices and provides on-the-ground workforces the deep visibility and timely control required to succeed. For this example, a multinational oil and gas company in Asia, sharing the information became critical given its environment because it was heavy reliant on distributors. Before retail execution came into picture, these manufacturers didn't have any visibility on the distributor performance or their coverage. They just had to rely on the information that they provided after their execution. As such, Targeted campaigns and defined standardized workflows were simply not possible. By introducing retail execution, they were able to effectively communicate, not only to receive data from the distributors, but also to be able to deliver instructions to them and share their standards with them as well. So their performance could be increased and more aligned with the manufacturer's expectations. And the distributors actually found a great benefit into this. By applying global close standards in their execution, their ROI as distributors improved greatly, and they were able to develop and grow their business. The monitoring component of the distribution activities was also a key piece of this strategy. The manufacturer was able to see how many users were deploying on a specific region, which stores were covered, what happened on a specific visit, and in general, they gained a huge amount of visibility over the distributor activities. This helped the manufacturer to design more focused strategies per distributor and even per individual group of stores that were delivered via the retail execution software. As some small takeaways about this conversation that we just had, I wanted to share with you this. The first one is that regardless of your strategy, you need to choose the right partner to accompany you in your retail execution strategy. And sometimes organizations pick a vendor and they just give the software, but not the whole process behind the software itself. And most of us vendors of retail execution have good practices to share with you. It's just for the companies to select what is the right partner to accompany you in this travel. The second takeaway that I want you to keep is to find the right balance between technology and business features. Sometimes some things that we offer as vendors are trendy and nice, right? But they don't really solve a problem, and you need to question yourself if the technology is really solving you a problem, or if you are implementing it just because it's a trendy thing. And one of these, a good example of this is the software as a service trend. In some cases, software as a service is a nice concept and will alleviate you the burden of having to deal with infrastructure and some additional costs, but at the same time will reduce your flexibility to have your own secret sauce in your system. So you have to find that balance of using the technology versus having your own strategies implemented into the solution. The third one is very related to that, and it's about to find the problem, the value of the problem that you're facing versus the value of the solution. If you're having right now a problem, but the software solution to resolve it is actually, it will cost you much more than the actual problem itself, then the solution is not right for you. So you need to find creative ways, and that's why you need to resort to someone that is your partner and not a vendor, right? Because a vendor will try to position the technology on you, even if it costs you a lot, right? But a partner will tell you, okay, if you are trying to resolve this problem and it's very costly for you, then let's work together and find more creative ways to resolve it. The next one is related to data. Make the data work for you. You don't want to capture data just for the sake of it and just for the sake of being compliant with a process. You need to make that data that you get from the stores to work for you. And the best way to make it work for you is to analyze it and to find patterns in the data that go outside of that box that you set as your standard KPI. So you need to think outside of the box and try to determine new sets of KPIs that will help you planning more and selling more. And finally, you need to take a holistic approach in retail execution and find your secret sauce. You need to consider people, you need to consider process, you need to consider tools, you need to consider technology, and at the end of the day, this holistic approach will help you creating your own business processes, and that's why you need to have someone very flexible on your side that will help you to accommodate to your individual business needs and then create that secret sauce. For more information, there are several places that you can resort to. I'd like to encourage you to visit one interesting site in the Microsoft space, that is www.microsoft.com/retail. There's a number of articles there related to digital transformation and customer engagement and operations optimization, and in general, how some leaders in the space have improved by innovating on the retail execution processes. You may also want to follow at MS Retail on Twitter, that's at MS Retail. You can subscribe to their blog or read the white paper that was the source of the presentation that I shared with you. You can see also there are multiple case studies on how our customers have succeeded by making us their partners. And with this, I would like to see if there are some questions.
There are a couple of questions that have come in, Andres. Here's one. How do you transform compliance measurements into action In other words, is it possible to do something immediately during a store visit?
That's an excellent question, and at AFS we thought a lot about it. Actually, we spent probably a year trying to figure out how to resolve that problem. And in essence, what we're doing is that after the information is captured in the store, the system, the offline system that is in the hands of our end users, analyzes and identifies immediately the points of data that are outside of compliance. So, for instance, you are analyzing a shelf, and then you find out that you have an out of stock, or some products are outside of the picture of success that is part of your planogram. Then the system will let you know about that and will tell you what possible actions to take, whether it is to restock the shelf, or to talk with the store manager, or to place an order, or to analyze if there's an order and route it and is delayed, things like that. So in essence, the system should be in capacity not to be only a system of data capture, more a system that will give you the tools to correct those exceptions that will be found after the data is captured.
Okay, another question. What are the trends in the use of wearable devices in retail execution?
In the past, there was this question about voice recognition and having to carry an extra device. So instead of typing on a mobile device, users were kind of like dictating to the system what they needed to do. Fortunately, nowadays, wearable technology is helping us to overcome that, and now you can dictate orders and shelf conditions through a smartwatch. Also, the smartwatch will help you a lot on alerts and assisting you. For drivers, for instance, it's a great tool because it will give you point-by-point and turn-by-turn directions to reach your next point of sale. So in essence, the wearables are becoming a very good way to complement the mobile device that the retail execution users have nowadays. So we at AFS are trying to introduce new technologies and new uses for that technology, and I'm sure most of the retail execution vendors are in the same wagon. But wearables are both going to become the next big thing in retail execution in the next couple of years.
Okay, one more that just came in. Is there any value in hiring a company to call into every retail store to create action for compliance?
It depends a lot on the size of the promotion scope that you want that you have. So imagine that you are going to deploy a promotion in 100,000 stores. That will represent that you need to perform at least 200,000 or 300,000 visits to measure the cycle of compliance of the promotion. So in some cases, it's valuable depending on the value of the products and the value that you want to get from the promotion. But there are some rules of thumb that you want to follow in regards of measuring that compliance. If measuring the compliance is actually more costful than the actual execution of the promotion, then you are in a big trouble. So definitely, you can sample that. You can say, okay, if I'm deploying to 100,000 stores, maybe I can measure compliance on 25,000, and that will give you a good measurement on how the others are performing. It's important for you to segment and to pick what are the right stores to visit, and that's how retail execution can help you, because you can, through the retail execution solution, segment what are the relevant stores to be part of that sampling process, right? What will be the most representative in a region or in a sector, or that will become your highest sellers, your lowest sellers, and so on.
Okay, thank you, Andres. That was excellent. For more information, please visit afsi.com.